Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm going to give an update today on our wildfire recovery efforts this past January from the Palisades fire. It's crazy that it's almost the year anniversary is coming up. It's a lot's gone on over the past year, but this is kind of becoming our new normal planning for wildfires, especially in Southern California. So we're already gearing up for this new wildfire season that we're about to get into. With the Palisades fire, just to remind everyone, it started on January 7th. And it was truly devastating. It hit close to home for me, and I know it did for many of you. I grew up not too far from here. I worked for Heal the Bay when I was right out of high school, so lots of family and friends that were impacted by these fires, and it's really, really devastating. This fire the burn scar was just under 24,000 acres. There was about 7,900 structures that were damaged. About 6,900 of them were completely lost, 12 deaths. So truly devastating. It's one of the more impactful fires that we've had in California recently. The Topanga Canyon watershed was about a third of it was burned. So just to give you a sense of scale, it's the third largest watershed that's in the Santa Monica's, just under like Malibu Lagoon or the Malibu watershed in Bayona. So it's about 12,000 acres. And so within this lagoon, there's lots of threatened and endangered species, red-legged frogs, pond turtles, southern steelhead that were all impacted greatly by this fire. And the Tidewater Goby that I'm going to talk to you about in a second. This is what the lagoon looked like the year before. So it's a small lagoon. It's a huge watershed, but it's a very small lagoon that has lots of urban development around it. So it's constricted or confined the outflow. But you can see lots of really great native vegetation, riparian habitat. And this is what it would look like when you're on kind of the ground floor. So it's really great habitat for all these different types of species. Tons of Tidewater gobies, even though this is one of the smaller lagoons that's in the recovery unit, and I'll go over the recovery units in a second. It's one of the largest and most stable populations that we have in the LA County region. This is what the fire looked like about a month after. So this is what happened to all of this devastated. The wildfires came all the way down and burned even the lifeguard towers. Really, huge devastation. We lost the ranch motel over here. This is what it looked like about 8 days after the fire. So we went in, and the goal for this effort, there's a few recovery efforts for a few different species. This one was for the Tidewater goby, so we were able to get clearance from the National Guard and were escorted in about 10 days after the fire. And it was to recover this little fish. Everyone loves their Tidewater goby. This is a full adult. This is as big as they get, or not too close. This is a female. She was showing her breeding colors when she was collected. So this one was recovered from the fire and was transported to one of the aquariums. They don't get very big. They're annual species. They don't live very long. This is the largest one on record, but they're full of eggs. This one has probably over 1,000 eggs. So they reproduce and rebound really, really quickly. They're endemic to California, so they're split up into 6 different recovery units. We are mostly now focused on the Conception and the LA Ventura ones, so Santa Barbara, LA Ventura counties. Those are the ones that are being most impacted by wildfires. But we've also described a new southern species. So the South Coast one, which is exclusive to just Camp Pendleton, has had a couple fires over the years, nothing too devastating. But we're going to focus on the northern Tidewater goby today. It's a small fish that has a huge, huge impact. I call it like an extremophile when it comes to fish. It's truly amazing. You could survive in fresh water, complete fresh water, salt water. I've collected it in 65 parts per thousand, hypersaline like ag ponds. It's really hard to kill. And so it's, the temperature ranges, you name it. I've collected it in estuaries that had no dissolved oxygen whatsoever. It can slurp air from the surface. And it's really the only species that's adapted to survive in these really highly variable lagoon settings, these seasonally closed lagoons. So they'll, kind of regulate a lot of the ostracods and small crustaceans. They do eat mosquitoes. They love mosquito larvae, especially when they're in their smaller stages. Lots of different fish and birds eat them, including southern steelhead. But we learned a lot over some previous fires. So before the Palisades fire hit, we had to respond to Thomas Fire and the Woolsey Fire. This is Rincon, and so it doesn't look that impacted right now. A lot of the impact doesn't, occur when the fire happens. We've had many of these fires that have burned all the way down to the beach. Gobies are fine at that point. It's really the post-floods that come out, the debris flows that suffocate their habitat. So you'll get lots of terrestrial debris, leaves, sediment, things like that bury them in their burrows. So here you can see all these different logs and all the debris that flowed out. Rincon was extirpated from the Thomas Fire. It actually just recently recolonized from all the rains that we got from 2022 to 24, which was exciting. But these are some of the impacts from what happens. And so after the Thomas Fire, Carpenter Creek, we weren't able to really get in there quick enough to even see what the impacts were or what the population was. It filled up with telephone poles, electrical lines. There's no way to pull any type of seine nets. It's a huge hazard. And until that big water or the storm comes, it just sits there and it's stagnant. And so this was just post-drought, so it actually needed like 2 or 3 big rainstorms to fill up the water table in order to breach the system. So all this stuff sat in there for about like 3 months, 4 months. Luckily, they survived this, which was amazing. This is a Royal Pardon. This is Ashton Kutcher's house. I've seen him a couple times. But Camila. So this is a really important site. There's a lot of genetic isolation that happens with these, and so this was a population that hadn't really been colonized for a long time, but it was very unique genetically, and we lost this too. So this one was actually just recolonized again. But just the devastation that happens after these wildfires, you really have to get in quickly if you want to be able to respond or do any types of recovery efforts. Because the debris flows after the storms are huge impacts. So this is another confiscation. There's red-legged frogs in here, pond turtles, so it's not just gobies that we're worried about. So we were able to really act quickly. We learned a lot from all of those fires, Franklin Fire as well. So we kicked it into gear. Once the fire started, we have a team that's like a Tidewater Goby management team for LA and Ventura County. And we got on the phone quickly on like the following day, and we were already starting to plan for access. So we have all the permits, we have all the gear, everything, on that end is pretty easy. It's all about access at that point. Luckily, this was in a state park. So state park they have their own fire response team, so they're able to coordinate with the National Guard and all the checkpoints and stuff. They went in and did a preliminary, safety check for all of us, and we just rallied a huge amount of volunteers. So it was the Resource Conservation District of the Santa Monica Mountains, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, USGS, UCLA, Cal State Channel Islands. It was really an amazing effort. It's not hard to collect these things. It's really the planning and the access and all that stuff that goes into it. So it took us about 2 hours. What was really great that actually happened, talking about how all that debris can settle into the lagoon when it stays closed, there was a pre-flush that happened, and it happened from all the water that was being used to fight the fire up in the watershed. So it breached the day before, which we were a little worried we might not be able to find any gobies because they either get flushed out or they kind of hunker down. But there was plenty in there. We ended up catching about 760 of them, which was great. We split them up, and some of them went to our partners at Aquarium of the Pacific, who are here today, and Heal the Bay Aquarium, which was really great. But they, you could see the lagoon breached, It got a lot of the fire retardant in the phos check out, which was awesome. So I think it actually helped in the recovery of the lagoon. So usually with like what we found with the Thomas fire and the Woolsey fire, those lagoons took like a year, 18 months for them to truly recover and like flush out and start, you know, responding like a natural wetland. This one, it recovered quite quickly, and it really was that kind of pre-flush. So we're starting to think about maybe these, you know, talks about artificial breaching in these instances, depending on what the weather projections are and all that stuff. Here's a bunch of little gobies in an ice chest, so you can transport a ton of them really easily. So there's probably about like 200 in each one of these ice chests. We had lots of local partnerships with the various aquariums. So that's what makes it easy if something happens down south. So there's lots of aquariums. We've had some other recovery efforts due to drought, El Nino flooding, that we've had gobies at the Cabrillo Marine Aquarium and the Birch Aquarium. But we're starting to build these management plans for the coast, and there's not aquariums and holding facilities throughout the coast. So we're starting to have to think about that now with all this recovery effort, but it doesn't take that much area, right? You can put about 500 gobies in a small tank, and that's all you need to actually rebound a population, which is really awesome. So we ended up releasing them on the 17th, so it was about 6 months after. We weren't sure where we were going to release them. We were constantly doing checks to see if the habitat was good. Mira and the Jacobs Lab helped out, so we went through some of the other local populations in the area, checked did some genomic work to make sure that if we did have to put them in a different estuary, we were putting them in an area that was best supported for them. We did a little experimental release. So when we went back and did a preliminary survey, there were tons of gobies still in the system that had survived the fire. So we didn't have to necessarily put all of them back in. We put a small population in Malibu Lagoon to try to kickstart it, which is really great. But now we're just trying to build wildfires into our adaptive management plans. So I've been working with U.S. Fish and Wildlife for about 10 years now, just developing plans for the whole coast. Most of those efforts have to happen in LA, Ventura County, Santa Barbara County. That's where most of these kind of impacts are. We've had El Nino flooding, lots of drought. Santa Barbara County's had a few fracking spills that have extirpated some populations. And so now we're building wildfire in. And so it's just another component of these adaptive management plans, but it's been really, really great, and we have a great team to help us. We've been doing some post-fire surveys. So this is a small lagoon that's just north of Topanga, and there's gobies popping up in all these smaller little watersheds too that survived the wildfire. So it's really encouraging. With that, we just did a survey in Topanga, and we did a population assessment. There's over 100,000 Tidewater gobies in there now from the fire. So in 1 year, we went from collecting, it was difficult to collect about 1,000 of them, to now over 100,000. So they recover quite quickly. We got support from U.S. Fish and Wildlife to make these go kits, which are really awesome. So now we've dispersed them throughout the coast. It's everything that you need to collect a goby, do population assessments, transport to holding facilities. So it's really awesome. If there's anybody in here that's doing any of this work or is working on wildfires, is doing any type of disaster relief, we'd love to talk to you, because we're still trying to adapt these plans for different wildfire recovery efforts. With that, I think I'm out of time, but thank you all. It was a huge effort, and